is episode 2 of the business studies. Yay! If you watched the first one, well, I'm surprised you came back for more, to be honest. If I were you, I would just go back to your books. But anyway, you are here, and if this is your first time coming, well, welcome to the chaotic mess that are my videos. So, for this video, we will be going over the influences on operations, which is the second part of the business studies operations topic, as I'm guessing as a stressed student who just finished the trials, you're probably aware of that. Anyway, let's get into it. So, here's the syllabus for what this part covers. So we've got these big triangles indicate I can draw. Laser pointer. Yes, I have a laser. Can I change the color? Woo! Okay, my laser pointer is red. But anyway, these big ones indicate the big dot points on the syllabus, and then these little ones are like the sub dot points. So we've got 2 dot points, but really, there's only 2? Jeez, okay. Yeah, no, there's only 2. Okay. I completely forgot that there wasn't that many, because some of the others have a few more. But yeah, they are quite big dot points, especially compared to what's in the role of operations, but generally the influence is bigger. So influences, I should probably explain what this is in general. They're just the factors, internal and external, that influence the business decisions. It's pretty, I don't know another word to use instead, sorry. Anyway, we'll start with dot point 1 because that makes sense. So we've got dot point 1 is globalization, technology, quality expectations, cost-based competition, government policies, legal regulations, and environmental responsibilities. So a lot of things to learn. These are all the they're the main influences that you have. Now, you don't have to know an awful lot about each, but we'll go through each of them one by one in the order of the syllabus, of course. So, yeah, no, my slides are a bit prettier this time, as last time they mostly had all the information on the slides, but I went onto Google, stole some images, and used the suggested templates from PowerPoint. Anyway, globalization is the increasing integration and interdependence of world economies, so if you do economics, you've done a fair bit about globalization. It is a process where barriers are broken down and makes the movement of goods, people, technology, and finance easier. So stuff can get between countries easier. So some things to consider when, the influence is differences in currencies and exchange rates. So I think that can become an issue, and exchange rates will be covered later in one of the other topics. I should know this off by heart. Learn your syllabus, kids. Don't be an idiot like me. And then we've got trade agreements and trade blocks. So some countries may have tariffs, or some may not, which may affect where you decide to import or export from. Or 2, you've got the World Trade Organization, which is these big fancy people that monitor trade. You've got global consumers, so you may want to make your product a global product and consider what other economies need. So different countries, which is will be discussed a bit more in globalization and marketing, and the differences in cultures. So these are all parts of globalization that will affect your product, how things are made. So if you're making things for different markets, there may be different expectations and standards need to be met. Or if you're manufacturing overseas, there may be different laws, which, they're part of other things. But essentially, globalization is how the world is becoming more connected. So what used to be where, you could only do things in your immediate geographical vicinity, that is no longer a limitation. And this influences how a business may decide to operate. And then next, we have technology. So technology can be either established or leading edge. and it assists in the operation process. So training may be required when implementing new technology in the workplace, and plant may need to be adjusted. So, and also if you install new technology, it will impact your finances. So established are things that everyone, sorry, I need to cough. Everyone understands how it works. So, what's an established technology? Dang it. I will get back. So like an FTPOS machine, most people know how to. FTPOS machines have existed for a while. People know how to use them. Whereas leading edge may be something like Afterpay. It's newer, it's fancier. So the advantage of using established technology is that your workers are gonna know how to use it. People know how to use a doorknob, for example. Doorknobs are established technology. Everyone knows how to use a lock and a key. Everyone knows how to turn it. It's a really bad example, but essentially established technology, stuff that's existed for a while that you can reasonably assume your workers know how to use. They're also likely what a business is already using. Leading edge is about using the latest and greatest and hoping to get an advantage in, say, your operations, and maybe this will tie into, say, something like cost leadership by using leading edge. So you're using the fanciest, newest, fastest version to try and cut costs. You may try and use something like established technology that's maybe a bit outdated to try and differentiate yourself. For example, like maybe you're a niche, expensive, boutique-y, fancy business that manufactures things by hand. Established technology, old technology, outdated, but you differentiate yourself by going for that more handmade appeal rather than mass producing, which would lean more towards leading edge, because you're trying to make as much possibly the fastest, most efficient, so you're going to want to use the newest operations. And yeah, if you get new technology in and you're adjusting your operations process, you may need to you need to train your people how to use it, and if you're getting a big new fancy machine, you need space for it. So you may need to rework your whole office plant or workplace or factory or whatever you want to call your firm, and where you're manufacturing or operating from. You may need to change it if you get something new in. And next, we have quality expectations. So consumers, customers, and manufacturers expect a certain level of quality, which will influence how the product is made and the operations. So, if you need durability, there's an expectation of durability or reliability, or the product being fit for purpose. And yes, it must be fit for purpose to fulfill its legal expectations. If you buy a cup, I expect it to be able to hold liquid. That's just an example. You don't want something that dissolves instantly when you put water in it if it's a water bottle. So don't make a water bottle out of origami, unless you're really skilled and can somehow do that in a viable way. But anyway, like for example, a car. And yes, I used this before because if it instantly the motor sets itself on fire as soon as you turn it on, it has not met any quality expectations. Your consumer expects that they should be able to safely drive the car without it exploding. And I'm assuming most manufacturers of cars expect the same thing. That's going to influence how the business operates. And also, depending on, say, how you decided if you want to be, how you set yourself, say, in marketing, of how cheap you want to be and stuff. Like, if you're a cheap and nasty business, you're not going to have the same level of quality expectations, and neither are your customers, because you're likely selling it really cheap. Unless you're making it cheap and nasty and charging a fortune for it, in which their quality expectations of the consumers and the manufacturers won't match, and you may not be making money for too long, because people may see you as kind of scamming them. Anyway, that was unnecessarily over the top. Let's move on. And it didn't click. I'm really bad at clicking this clicky slide thing. So cost-based competition is all about, you're going to be influenced by what your competitors are doing, because remember, we have a lot of rivals. There are Sasuke's out there. And yes, Sasuke is now going to be how I will refer to rival businesses. This will be a running joke. If you haven't watched Naruto, actually, I would say go watch it, but you've got your HSC coming up. It's too long to watch. It's several hundred episodes. Read a shonen, read some manga, and just find some spunky haired boy. Pokemon, Gary Oak, he can be your rival. Just find something with a rival, and or if you just remember what rivals are, then fine. But if you want to be cool, and you like anime like me, then find someone to declare the rival. Anyway, so what cost-based competition, you're gonna have to see what price they're doing. Now, price is marketing specifically, but if everyone else is selling it for cheaper than you can make it, you may need to adjust your operations to reduce your costs. So you could outsource, you could try and source lower cost inputs, or update and change your technology, etc. But what your competitors are doing is going to affect how you operate, especially if your main way of differentiating yourself is by cost and how cheap you are. And another thing is the government, because they can influence both, so government policies both domestically and internationally, especially if your business, is global, can influence operations and production management. So they can, offer support for new business, tax concessions, grants, rebates, free trade policies. What the government is doing, it matters. For those who do economics, you know that the government tries to, influence how businesses work. If they want a certain industry to do certain things. For example, one business that was very much influenced by the government was Holden, as Holden wasn't internationally competitive for a while, so the government was giving them some money to keep them afloat. The government decided, you know what? No, it's a bit more complicated than that. But essentially, they stopped subsidizing. They stopped paying and giving them the money to keep them afloat because they weren't competitive. So they were left to then just sink or swim, and they sank. So the reason why Holden doesn't exist anymore is because the government stopped delaying it and, giving them the holding hand to keep them alive. They decided, no, if you can't make it, just die. So that's a really harsh way of phrasing it. But anyway, that's a business that was affected by government policies, which, you can steal and use in your essay if you remember and you get a question that actually has anything to do with this, which you might. And also, there's the issue of legal regulations, which, is slightly different, but essentially businesses must follow the law. Kind of expected. Most things have to follow the law. If you don't, well, if you don't get caught. I mean, you're still supposed to follow the law. Let's just assume this matters. Okay? Doesn't matter if businesses are being sketchy. It's still there. So legal regulations can influence operations and production management. So we've got, the Competition and Consumer Act of 2010, which every legal studies student is very sick of right now. You've got the Work Health and Safety Act of New South Wales in 2013. So, they govern what the expectations are for work safety. We've also got issues of like minimum wages. You can't just pay people $1 a day. That's kind of illegal, so that's going to affect your operations. And, for example, Australia, as our labour costs are really expensive, we tend to lend ourselves to outsourcing to other countries like China that can produce quicker and, cheaper because they don't pay their workers enough. Or we might be more likely to say use machinery because it's cheaper for us to invest in capital goods than to try and use people. Whereas some countries where it's cheaper to use people, they might not use the most efficient machines and measures, but they've got enough people that it's just cheaper anyway. So yeah, the law affects. And also, like, if a product, say, like vapes, for example, vapes are technically illegal, kids, unless you have a prescription from your doctor. So that should technically affect how many vapes are produced, because, I mean, they're not for general consumption. Yes, stop vaping. Yeah, there's my little bit of propaganda in there. it had to be there. But what I'm also saying is if governments say regulate and trying to limit how much of a product people are consuming, or if a product outright illegal, so like drugs and illicit substances, that's going to affect your operations. If you're a legitimate business, you aren't going to produce cocaine. You aren't going to make things that aren't of certain standards in Australia. You aren't, or like toys. Toys are a good one that often get recalled because they're really bad at following the regulations on how the batteries are meant to be. Because if it's designed for a certain age, the batteries have to be really hard to get to. So like I think they have to be screwed in, not those like flip ones. But yeah, so the law affects how your business is going to influence how your business operates. And yeah, sorry for the references to drugs. But yeah, no, a legitimate, legal, law-following, abiding, good business isn't going to produce illicit substances. And next, we have environmental sustainability. So there's more of a pressure on businesses to be environmentally sustainable. So this just means, according to my expert definition that I stole from myself, in simple terms, environmental sustainability refers to the interactions of humans with the planet in a responsible manner, avoid depleting natural resources, reducing pollution, conserving and protecting the environment. So you guys know what it is pretty much. It's not killing our planet. And, just making sure that there's intergenerational equality. Yeah. Throw that in your essays. Teachers love that phrase. So businesses experience pressure from both governments and from customers to be more environmentally friendly. So increasingly governments are putting in laws, and more people are switching I just went to merge the words vegan and eco. I'm sorry, but there's more push for ecological products. So like you've got the government banning like plastic straws. So examples of how businesses are more like their operations are more environmentally friendly, so like reducing excess packaging, plastic, polystyrene, energy efficient products, changing and updating inputs, so instead of using like coal power for whatever they're working in, they use solar, or they better manage their hazardous waste, or they make new products that are green using environmentally sustainable inputs, create more sustainable outputs. Like so, environmental sustainability influences how your business works and how it operates. Now, for the dot point, we've got corporate social responsibility and two little sub dot points of like the difference between legal compliance and ethical responsibility, and then environmental sustainability again, because yes, they repeat it twice, it's really annoying, and social responsibility. So simply, the difference between legal compliance and social and ethical responsibility lies in the compulsion factor. So CSR means going above and beyond the law. So ethics is about, doing what is morally right or societally expected. Law is just doing the bare minimum you have to be a legitimate business. So ethics is about going above and beyond that. So we've got corporate social responsibility. So it's a new approach about creating positive outcomes for more than just the business. So now we've got like this is the idea of like the triple bottom line, because it used to be the bottom line. We just want profit. We just want money. We don't care if we cut down all the trees, like the Lorax, like the song, how bad can I be? That's just capitalism. But anyway, now we care a bit more about the planet and people and profit. Mostly profit, but at least we're pretending we care about the other two, depending on the business. Some businesses do actually care. A business that behaves in a socially responsible manner is one that tries to improve the quality of life of both internal and external stakeholders. So they're not just concerned about giving those, shareholders and those that have stocks as much money as possible. They also care about, I don't know, general population and the people. So they might avoid exploiting children in factories and just trying to be decent, or trying not to kill all the turtles with their plastic straws, which I had a teacher complain about. I can't remember what the essay was, but it was like, get rid of the plastic straws, hashtag save the turtle. And yes, people wrote hashtags in their HSC paper. A lot. And so yeah, it includes issues of like human rights, child labor, transparency and honesty. So some businesses are very secretive about what they're doing, whereas, you know, hold yourself accountable. Like, there's a call for more businesses to actually let people know what they're doing. You know, there's labor standards, so ensuring that you don't have 1 million people crammed into a tiny little factory, giving them like less than an hour of rest, or pollution, or workers' conditions. So yeah, CSR's about doing more than just the law requires, because sometimes the law can fall short, especially in, it does vary by country, but say a business might want to be a little bit cheaper, so they might move their production to a country that doesn't care as much. And, you know, they could keep it and actually monitor and make sure that they aren't just killing people and the planet in order to gain money. So that's what CSR is about. And that concludes this review and summary, revision, whatever you want to call it, of the influences of reparations. I hope this helped. I hope this wasn't too annoying or long or boring. I'm glad you actually finished it. I'm surprised anyone would ever finish this. So if there's anything else you guys want me to talk about in a future video to do with business studies or any of the other subjects I do, so I do legal studies, economics, studies of religion 1 unit, I do advanced and extension English, so any of those subjects I'm happy to talk about. Don't ask me to talk about a subject I don't do, especially math. Please don't ask me to do any math stuff. I know I did math until earlier, but please, I've forgotten all of it. I can barely count. So, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. And yeah, just comment legitimately anything you want. Comment Apple. Just the entire comment section, which is likely to be anybody. Write Apple. Thank you.